Hello everyone. Today we will be discussing one more example of NFA with epsilon to NFA without epsilon, which we considered in the previous slides. Consider the following example. 4 states A, B, C, D, and we have 2 epsilon moves. One is from B to D and another is from D to A. As far as the rules of conversion are concerned, we first need to find the E transition for each state, that is E closure. Then we find delta hash transition corresponding to all the E closures. We need to repeat the step 2 for each input symbol and for each state, and ultimately the transition table which we get is the NFA equivalent to NFA without epsilon. Now to start with, first we will draw the transition table. This transition table as such serves no purpose, but it is just for information regarding how many states we have and what is the transition corresponding to each state on A, B and epsilon. First step is to find the E-closure of all the states. What is E-closure? E-closure of a state includes that particular state, along with that all the transitions which it has on epsilon move only. That means without consuming any input A or B, there is a transition from one state to another state. Now if we talk about E-closure of A, in this case we can clearly see that there is no epsilon move on A, so it will only include the state itself, that is A. Next we move to E-closure of B. E-closure of B will include B, along with it will include D and A, because there is a transition from B to D on epsilon, from D to A on epsilon. So it will have 3 states B, D and A. As far as state C is concerned, it will have only itself because there is no epsilon transition from C. State D will be included, along with that state A will be included because it has a transition from D to A on epsilon. So this is the final table which we get corresponding to the epsilon closure of all the 4 states. Next step is that we need to find the delta transition. Delta transition for A, comma A. E closure of capital A is A itself. So we will take E closure of A, comma A, and we will check the NFA. On capital A, there is a transition to capital B on input A. So we will include E closure of B. As far as table is concerned, E closure of B is A, B, D. So corresponding to A, comma A, we will have an entry A, B, D. Next we move to A, comma B. We will take E closure of A, that is A itself. We will check the entry in the NFA for transition of A on B. We get a self loop of A, so that means it is E closure of A. E closure of A is A. So A, comma B will give us A. Next we move to B, comma A. The E closure of B has 3 states A, B and D. We will consider all the states in the NFA for A move. A, comma A gives us B. B, comma A gives us C. And D, comma A is a self loop of A. So we will take E closure of B as well as C and D. E closure of B, C and D, this gives us, if we take union on all 3, this gives us A, B, C and D. Next we move to B, comma B, that means E closure of B, which is A, B, D on B. When we check the NFA, we get A on B is a self loop, B on B phi and D on B phi. So that means this is only E closure of A, which is A itself. C, comma A, E closure of C, only C. C, comma A is a self loop if we check the DFA. So we will take E closure of C only, and that is C. C, comma B. C, comma B. C, E closure of C is C itself. C, comma B in NFA takes us to D. So we will have E closure of D, which is AD, as depicted in the table. The final state is D. D, comma A, that means D, E closure of D includes A and D. AD, comma A, comma A moves us to B, and D, comma A moves us to D itself. So we will take E closure of B as well as E closure of D. This gives us A, B, D. Last entry is D, comma B. D, comma B, that means E closure of D, which is AD on B. A on B is a self loop as depicted in the NFA, and D on B is phi. So ultimately it will be closure of A, which is A itself. So this is how we get the final transition table. And this is the NFA without epsilon. Corresponding to A, we have ABD, A transition, A itself, B and D. Likewise, on B we have only self loop. Then we move to B, A, B, C, D on A. A, it back move from B to A, B, C and D. From C we have on A self loop, that's all. On B it has a move from C to A and C to D on B. And last is D. D comma A is A, B, D. A, B and D, and on B it has only D to A as B. So this is the final output. This is the NFA with epsilon converted to NFA without epsilon. Thanks for watching.